Hi, I'm Norman Hawes, and today we're going to show you how to run wire, how to trim wire out. And when I say trim, it's like actually preparing the wire to hook up. When you are building a house from new construction, so the sequence is that the electrician comes in, he puts in the roughing kits for the lights if they're in the ceiling, he does all the outlets on the floor and the switches like that. Then he runs his wire. And the wiring is called Romex. And it's just the electrical term for that's the kind of wire to use. And it'll either be what they call 14-2 or 12-2. Most rooms are 14-2. Kitchens are like 12-2 because they require more current to do it. And after the electrician, this is for new construction, after the electrician has done his rough in, he's got all the wires roughed in, stuff like that, then low voltage wiring such as your speaker wire, your doorbell wire, your Ethernet wire, your security wire, anything that's not 110 volts, that wiring gets installed next. The reason why the low voltage wiring is done after the electrical wiring is done is that you cannot put low voltage wiring where the electrical's been. The electrician will have very easily run many holes through the studs. You cannot put your low voltage wire where he's been. You have to drill your own. If you have gone through and you didn't know and you ran your low voltage wire in the same place, he will make you pull all the low voltage wires out. And there's fire hazards and reasons, stuff like that, but just not a good idea. Drill your own holes. And I'll show you a little bit on the back side of this. Fake wall is not a real wall. And we're gonna run the low voltage wire and in spacing as far as how far apart to be away from it. The other thing we're going to show you is, and actually we got this set up now, we're going to show you how to trim, like if you've already got your low voltage wire ran, this is like speaker wire, how to actually hook it up to the speaker. So one of the things that happens is that when you are installing low voltage wiring is that you've got a drill. So if you're only drilling like 10, 20 studs, cordless drill is totally cool. And that's like if you're doing like one room, maybe two rooms, cordless is fine with a fully charged battery. But if you're doing most of a floor of a house, you want to get a corded drill because you will burn through these batteries. I mean, it doesn't hurt them, but you got to recharge them and it just makes it slower. So when you are, for this demonstration, we're just going to use a cordless. And when you use a cordless, you use the fastest speed and you're going to use, this is just one way of doing it, but it works pretty well. If you're only drilling holes for one, these are called paddle bits. This is a 9/16. You could use a 1/2 inch, you could use 5/8. And if you're only drilling one hole, which you're doing that, totally cool to do. If you're thinking that you're going to be running a bunch of wires back to a central location, you want to use something more like 1 inch or 1.5 inches or 1 1/8 or something like that. So it allows you to do more holes or more wires in the same holes. Let's drill in for you. The bigger the bit, the faster you'll chew the battery up. So, and when you're doing a cordless or even corded, usually there's something called a clutch. And on the clutch there's a bunch of numbers, but if you rotate it until it can't rotate anymore, there's one that looks like it's a one with a bunch of slots in it, that you're bypassing the clutch and you're getting the full speed and the full ability to cut through wood. So when you're drilling in the wall where the electrical's already done, imagine the sheetrock's not here, and remember you want to be about 12 inches air gap. Like right now, I'm actually going to drill across here because I want to get a speaker wire up to here. So this is an in-wall speaker and we're running 16 gauge 2 conductor. So one of the things that you try to do is you try to be consistent with your height all the way across. It just looks better. When you've got a wire like this that's already here, you want to be careful that you don't drill through the wire, which has happened. So I'll show you the technique for doing that. So when you're drilling here, you can be 12 inches air gap, you can be more, but at least that. What I do is, that's probably about 12. And notice how this drill will just barely fit in there. You can still actually start at an angle and start the drilling, And as the drill bit goes in, you can straighten up the drill, and I'll show you this. And I've got the drill on the fastest speed. So here. Now, one of the things that's cool is see how I'm rotating it a little bit? That causes it to actually bite a little bit faster, so the drill's a little bit quicker. So I've got this first one drilled, and I noticed that that's roughly about here. So I move over, do the same thing again. And so now, when I come to this one, there's a Romex wire here, electrical wire. So what I want to do is, I'm still at the same space, but I'm going to take the wire and I'm going to push it a little bit, because you don't want to chew this up. Other thing to keep in mind is, keep your hand out of the outside. I know I'm probably saying the obvious, but you'd be surprised at what people have done not thinking. And when you see where the tip is just popping through right here, I would stop and come back on this side to avoid any possibility of damaging the Romex wire. So now, see how this wire is loose a little bit? Pull it back down a little bit to make it tight. And then, so the speaker wire is going to come through and come up this side and hang down about 12 inches or so, rather than come through and come up this side, because I want the air gap to reduce the possibility of the speaker wire picking up any cyclical hum from the Romex wire. When you're doing a single speaker location and you're running a single wire to it, it's 16 gauge 2 conductor, not 16 gauge 4 conductor. You can do the 4 conductor, but it just wastes money because you're only using 2 out of the 4. So here, running the wire through, and you take the electric wire and just push it and just bring it on through. And we're not bringing it up this side because it's too close to this. We're actually going to bring it over and come up this side. And you want roughly 12, 15 inches of the wire hanging out. So when you do this, and you do this, so when you're running wire, the other thing is, you don't do diagonals, which is that. And the reason why you don't do it, other than it doesn't look sloppy, is that when you square stuff off, it gives you a little safety margin. If you realize you screwed up and didn't have enough here, then you can pull this wire and get the diagonal, gives you more length. So whenever you can, try to have stuff squared off, because it gives you a safety factor in case you screw up with the amount of wire in there, and it just looks better. And it doesn't look so much like someone's first time doing it. It looks like you've been doing it for a while. It looks like a pro. So now when you have the wire hanging out, you got like that much of it hanging out, you need to secure it to right here in the, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So you want to use low voltage staples because they're designed to safely hold the wire in place without doing any damage, without interfering its ability to do its job. And use a hammer to put this in. When you're using staples for wire, you've pulled the wire, you've pulled it up, you've inserted it, you got 12 inches of gap. When you're stapling though, you staple from the destination, which is a speaker, back to the source. So here, see how I can still slide it back and forth, but it's secure. And still slide it. And the other thing is, when you're doing low voltage wire, don't have the cable like that, where it's a tight, you want gentle sweeps. So here you only need the 2 2 staples, and that's it, and you're done. So what I'm going to show you all right now is a way of stripping wire. It's not the only way of doing it, but it's been a pretty easy and effective way of doing it. And the key is that speaker wire has a jacket, which has the printing on it, and then inside, in this particular case, has 2 conductors. This is 16 gauge 2 conductor, or just say 16/2. So when you've got the wire through the wall, you want to hook it up to a speaker. The key is that you want to strip the insulation of the jacket, which has got the writing on it, without doing any damage to the inside wires. So here's a pretty easy technique to do. You do need a utility knife with a new sharp blade. Do not use an existing one. Take your wire. This is actually pretty neat. All I'm doing is just bending it over like this, and I'm taking the wire. There's no motion in this. All I'm doing, I'm not doing any sawing. All I'm doing is just laying it on there, and I'm doing it that one time. And you'll see that the tension has caused the jacket to open, but I have not damaged the inside conductors. If you then take it and flip it around the other way, see, I just went like that, and it pinched it open the other way. So now, do this. So if you look, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I've taken, the jacket is off, but I've not damaged the inside conductors. This here. Now this particular wire, Crutchfield sells, and it's by a company called AudioQuest, and all they do is cables. And one of the things that they do is they actually add 2, one's already nipped off. This is just plastic, but the purpose of it is to make the jacket round, which makes it easier to pull through holes that you've drilled through the wall. So once you've actually cut the outside jacket off, you can take and just nip off the plastic. So I've got the negative, which is the black, and the red, which is the hot. And you take a set of wire strippers. When you look at these things, you'll actually see numbers here like 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. And this is 16 gauge wire. And what you do is find the number that says 16, and you want, I don't know if you can tell that, that's roughly about a ½ inch of and just pull it through. The insulation comes off cleanly, but you haven't cut any of the wires. And as soon as you do that, right now, see how the wire is sprayed out? You know, it's kind of going all different directions. Just take and twist it. And as you're twisting it, your fingers go like this. So just, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And twist. So that is a really neat, clean way of doing it. There's no damage to the wire. What you don't want to do is, if you're using a blade or something like that, if you try saw or something like that, it's really easy to cut the inner insulation on this, which allows the chances of shortening it out. So if you're doing it like this, it's really important that none of the conductors on this side touch this side, which causes the amp to work much harder and the sound doesn't very good. So once you've done that, the speaker we're going to put in, and if you'll notice on the back here, it's also red and black, red for positive, black for negative, which just so happens to be the same colors on here. So we're going red and black. And this, it's a spring tension, so it locks in here. So the dog legs, so now for most speakers, there's a set of screws that actually hold, this is the woofer, it's also called a driver, and there's a set of inner screws, and there's also a set of outer screws. The outer screws is what has those dog legs pop into position. So as I take a Phillips screwdriver and I rotate, the dog leg pops 90 degrees and stops. You can't go any further. And as I keep screwing the screw, the dog leg actually comes together and the sheetrock forms a sandwich. This is the outside and the dog legs on the backside. Don't go around in a circle. The reason why you do this one and then the farthest one and then this one and the farthest one and this like that is it pulls the speaker evenly, and it doesn't do a phenomenon called torquing, where the speaker actually gets tucked in at an angle. Makes the driver last longer, the speaker last longer. Anyway, that's about it. And if you want to learn more, please get in touch with us. We're glad to help.